All right. Thank you to Shawna for joining us. Shawna comes to us from the Hopatcong, she's going to have to say it. But she's in New Jersey, but a PA native. So we welcome her and go right ahead, Shawna.
Thank you, everybody. So I teach, I am in northern New Jersey. I live about 45 minutes right outside of Manhattan. I'm like right in between Manhattan and the Pennsylvania border, right on Route 80. So I teach in Hopatcong, which is right on the biggest lake in New Jersey. And we had an early dismissal today, so it was a nice little afternoon off. I teach middle school general music. That's what I've been doing for the past 9 years. I've got 18 years in teaching. And so before that, I've done band, I've done choir, I've done everything from Head Start through high school. I've done administrative work as well. So I kind of run the gamut throughout my career, but really focusing lately on music technology and developing the program I currently have. I'm actually recipient of the Time Teacher of the Year award this year. I'll be getting it in 2 weeks in Texas, actually. So really exciting and quite an honor. Quite an honor. So anyways, but I'm originally from Berwick, Pennsylvania, born and raised there. Go Bulldogs. And my band director, Ron Wassers, recently retired. So I am a Pennsylvania native at heart. So I'm thrilled to be here tonight and kind of talk about flipping your classroom with assessments. Please stop me at any time, throw out questions, pause. Anything you have, thoughts, ideas, anything, just stop me because I could talk all night, as you'll probably get to know. So let's jump right in. I'm going to switch. Hold on. It's not. Where's my? Sorry. Just give me one moment. Oh, that's why. Okay. Sorry, the Zoom flipped on me, so just give me one moment. It didn't want to look at my... Oh, there it is. Yay! Okay, so sorry if there's a million things in my background. Hopefully you are seeing a Prezi, yes? Are we seeing a Prezi? Can we nod just so I know it's working? Okay, good. So I put together this Prezi to kind of help guide you, and I've linked it on my webpage, which I'll give you at the end. If you would like to access it, there's a direct link to it there that you can go back and kind of check it out or get any information, or, oh, I didn't remember what she was talking about, or I don't feel like taking copious notes. So you can kind of access that. And I'm a sharer, so if I'm going to show a ton of resources tonight. If you would like any of them, just shoot me an email. I will give you my contact information at the end, and I will share away. So what is a flipped classroom? So if we think about traditional versus flipped, in a traditional classroom, the teacher is instructing, the teacher is leading everything. The students take notes or follow the guided instruction. The teacher gives the assessment. Students have homework. If you're running a rehearsal for band, for choir and band, you might say, oh, you stop them. Clarinets, we need to work on the wrong notes in measure 22. It's teacher guided. You're driving, you're steering the ship. You're telling them what they need to do. You're giving them what's going on. Versus a flipped classroom, the teacher instructs lessons. There's a couple ways you can do it. One is the teacher instructing lessons on home via video, podcast, book, website. And you might be like, oh my gosh, that's going to be so much work to set up. That's not what I'm thinking. This is not for me. Well, there's a few versions. But if you can have some of the learning switched to at home and guide, if it's a performance class, guide their practice, you're going to get a deeper understanding, and you're going to get to dig into the concepts in the classroom more so than worrying about the nitty-gritty details. So that example of clarinets, we need to work on these notes in measure 22. If you flipped your classroom to be more student-centered, you'd say, did we play any wrong notes in there? Or, hey, who can tell me what they heard in measure 22? Or just, hey, clarinets, give me some feedback. So you have to really kind of scaffold it with your students to get them to a point to be able to say, Okay, what's everybody think about that playthrough? Especially if they're used to you telling them all the time. But when you give them that ownership, they're going to have a deeper understanding of the concepts, the applications, and connections to that content are going to be created. And you'll be able to support them as needed, but they're going to take the lead. They're going to take ownership. They're going to be vested even more so in your, not only your class, but your music, your preparation for concerts, and whatever it is. And by doing a flipped classroom, you're using more of Bloom's revised taxonomy, which is a flip of the original, where you are getting those higher order cognitive learning skills happening with the creating, evaluating, analyzing, because the kids have to be doing that. And they're doing it in our music classes, but you're really bringing it out to the forefront by giving them that voice to be making the decisions, and you're guiding them along the way, but asking the right questions and them really thinking about what they're doing instead of you always telling them. So what are some benefits for music education of flipping the classroom? So one, that it's student-centered. I have someone in the chat has a question. Any chance I could help with audio? I have video. Is there a microphone in the bottom left? Oh, you can't hear me.
I'll write to him, Shawna.
Okay, you'll do it? Okay.
Yep.
Good. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was slacking.
Okay, so student-centered classroom, student-driven, motivated. Teacher role, your actual role is actually going to be strengthened by becoming a moderator, a coach, guiding them instead of telling them always. You're going to strengthen your role within the classroom. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but it really does. Your time is going to be used much more efficiently. Peer learning is employed to a great degree. So you're going to have this fostering the students helping each other. And it takes getting used to, because at first you're like, I'm supposed to be doing something, like they're doing a lot of the work. But once you get used to it, it's nice. It's a nice little shift. And you can kind of sit back and go, wow, look at how these students are developing and look what they can bring to the class when I give them that voice and that opportunity. You can easily do project-based learning through this model, get rid of the lecture. I know back earlier in my career when I was teaching general music, I hated lecture courses. I taught one that was like it was a music history course. And it was such a struggle. I was like, there's got to be a better way than me up here just telling them all day. So by, again, flipping that and letting them do a lot of the telling and questioning and figuring out the answers, it really did make the class more interesting and engage the students more in it. With a flip model, you're going to use technology for a real purpose, and knowledge transfer is the core of the learning process. Creativity is given time within the instructional process. Students practice becoming stronger, independent learners, because that's what we need. I always tell my kids, when you get out in the real world, nobody's going to hold your hand and tell you exactly what to do. I'm like, if you think I have time to go to the principal every time I have a question, you're out of your mind. Like, I got to figure it out or ask a colleague. So they have to learn how to be comfortable to figure out how to find the answers and not just do a Google search, because they want to put any question into Google and have it spit out the answer immediately. But we need to get them able to think even deeper than just Googling it. And assimilation of information, you're going to see it happening. You're going to see the kids, the light bulbs go on. You're going to see everything clicking. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the National Core Art Standards. I know Pennsylvania has music standards, just like New Jersey. I am a huge fan of the national ones. I know here in New Jersey, we have revised art standards that are going to be coming out at a date yet to be determined. They were ready to be approved, and then we changed governors, and here we are in the midst of the politics waiting to get them going. But I do know that our new version mirror the National Core Art Standards, and I really love them for a few reasons. One is I love the 4 buckets where it's creating, performing, presenting, producing, responding, connecting. And then I like the anchor standards that break out of there, the 11 of them. And one of the reasons I like it is that the verbs are very much complementary with Bloom's taxonomy, with other content areas standards. If you want to do some arts integration, some STEAM, anything like that, or any cross-curricular teaching where your district may have that kind of initiative where you either have to bring the other contents into music or push music out into the other non-arts contents, then these work really, really nicely in how the anchor ones are written, that they match up with the next generation science standards, the language arts, the math standards of practice, and so on. So they're just, I just think they're really nice. And this is just a screenshot of nationalcorearts.org, their website. And of course, they get much deeper and much more specific with like the point 1, point MU, point 4, point A, point B, that we know standards get so long in their titles. And then it'll be, you know, in kindergarten or in 7th grade, it's, you know, composing this song in AB form or ABA form. And it gets very, very specific to the elements of music. But at its heart and at the anchor level, these are just really nice. And they're easy for the non-arts people to understand. Because we all know that most of us do not have music supervisors. We have a principal who evaluates us, and they look at our standards. And I mean, I remember having an athletic director for my supervisor during my observations, and he would always call me in and be like, so can you proofread it and fix the words? I don't really know what you were talking about in there. So that's many people's reality. And so I like these because they can understand them. And you know, the purist in me is like, oh, you know, but they understand them, they can get them, they can easily see you're doing what's listed there. So it's just going to make it better for you in the end, I feel. So a couple of benefits for those. So if you're thinking about flipping your classroom, this should be a collaborative effort. I like making it a collaborative effort between myself and my students, where the students are engaged in the process of setting their own goals. And listen, I'm not going to just turn over the keys to the kingdom to them, but if you let them think, if you're not willing to totally turn over the keys, if they think they're having a voice in it, it's just going to make it so much easier on you and the learning. The students always know what to practice because they're helping to determine what do we need to work on, where are those problems. So no, they don't go in, they're like, oh, I didn't remember what we had to do, because they're not connected to it. They're not owning it, and you got to create that ownership. And by giving them a voice, they're gonna own that work. Always work at setting high and worthwhile goals, not just you know, necessarily. I mean, I grew up in the time, and it still exists, you know, practice 15 minutes a day and you'll get better and everything will be great. But if we can guide the students with more, you know, work on your B flat concert scale, play it 5 times, or play it, and as long as you can play it 3 times without a mistake, then you move on to this skill. And if we can give them more specific concepts and skills to work on versus a blanket amount of time, it's going to help guide their learning better. It's also going to help create a culture of continuous improvement, because I just think that's a life skill in addition to a musician skill, of teaching the kids that, listen, you're never going to know everything, and it's a constant journey in life of becoming a lifelong learner to become better and get to know more things. So I need to switch back if I can find there we go. I have 2 things I want to share with SMART goals and some secrets of goal setting. So let me just switch my screen. I'm sorry, I have lots of stuff to, if you haven't seen these SMART goals, here they are. So if you're planning SMART goals, and I like to use this with my kids, make sure they're specific, know exactly what you're wanting to accomplish. Make sure they're measurable. How will you know that you met the goal? They're achievable. Make sure that they can actually do it, that they're ready to be able to do it, or that it will get them closer to being able to do it. You don't want it too far out of their realm, but you want it far enough that it's challenging. So finding that little sweet spot. Link the goal to something important. Link the goal to something important, to something that inspires you. So you need to make it relevant for the kids. And when do you want your goal to be met? So timely. What is going to be that time frame And if you can follow this with all of these, and especially with practice sessions for the kids, practicing their instruments at home is really good, or choir, practicing their music, or general music, practicing something or some homework. If you can make those goals or those sessions SMART using this acronym, it's really going to improve their abilities to work within your class. Okay, so, oh, yay. Yep. Okay, so Ian Morrison just asked if I can make it available to download. Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 links on my webpage, and I will put all of these resources into a folder and link it, and I'll give you that at the end of the webinar. Okay, so I will give you all of these things right in there. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to share is kind of a secrets of, here we go. Sorry, I have to navigate like the video off to the side. So when you're writing these goals, and you want to write the clear, measurable goals, those SMART goals, create a specific action plan for each goal. We talked about that through the SMART. Read your goals daily. So read these to the kids, have them displayed up there, and so that they know what they're moving towards. Reflect on your progress to see if you're on target. And again, put that ownership on the kids. In the digital age, hopefully many of your schools use Google Classroom or some form of that. I'm also a huge fan of Music First. I have a Music First classroom. The band teacher in my school is a Music First classroom. My elementary teachers are just getting on to Music First Junior. But I'll put it in there so the kids are constantly reminded of what's our goals, where are we on the target, so that they're in the know, and it's not this secret where we don't know where we're going and how we're going to get there and when we're going to get there. Revise your action plan if needed, and celebrate your accomplishments. You know, I even find my 8th graders still love stickers. So it doesn't have to be a big celebration pizza party where you're breaking the bank every, once a month, providing pizza or something like that. It can be something simple. It could be just a fun Friday activity where I know even my 1st grader, he gets so excited that they have flashlight Fridays. And if they have a good week, they get to sit and read in the corner in the dark with a flashlight. It's something, and that's not music related, but find something simple. Maybe it's Boomwhacker Friday, because I know that kids, whether they're preschool to age 99, senior citizens, love to sit and play with Boomwhackers. So, find what's your stick to kind of pull them in, and come back and reward them for their awesome work that they're doing. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my slide deck. Okay. So that's kind of goal setting. You've got to have them in the know of where you're going. It's not just our lesson plans where they have no idea where we're trying to go. You want them a part of that. So one way to do this is through self-assessment reflection. I love having my students self-assess and reflect. And I can remember back too many years ago when I was in high school and we had to keep a band journal. And, we had to, after every competition and football game and performance, and we had to write in our journal of our thoughts and our feedback. And back then, oh my gosh, I remember a band director would collect them and he'd have like 70 of these journals he'd have to go through. And I don't know where he had the time. Nowadays, again, with that Google Classroom, you can throw it up there, or Music First, and have the kids submit it, and bam, it populates right into one submission for you. It makes it really easy. I'm sitting at my son's basketball, and I can pull it up and scroll and read some of their comments and check that they've done it, versus carrying around a stack of 70 journals, because then you have them and they don't, and they can't continue working. So going digital with that can really, really, and that's an amazing formative assessment for you as a teacher, or summative, or diagnostic. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit towards the end of this. We'll talk more about that. But the thing, if you're going to use music journals and student assessment reflection, is that you need to do it consistently. You can't just do it and then 3 months later do it again, because the kids aren't going to really connect to it. They need to continually make it a part of their practice in order to really embrace it and you to get the most out of the experience, instead of it being, well, I need to collect some data, so I'm going to have you do this every so often because my principal says we need to be writing across the curriculum. So this is how I'm going to do it, because many of us do that. But if you can really figure out a way to authentically put it into your room, it can really propel your work forward. It can be a great do now activity. Rhythmic dictation, they could do that in their music journal. It doesn't always have to be written word reflection. It could be something as simple as that. And that's not even that simple, but something like that. So, or a short written response to a music related question that you throw up on the board, or a listening example that's tied to your music. Maybe you throw up a YouTube video. I love putting up good ones as well as really bad performances of songs we're doing or things we're doing, because they need to be exposed to the good, but they also need to be exposed to the bad so they can say, hey, wow, we sound better than that. I remember my current colleague when he first came, he pulled out a couple of songs for the kids to work on, and they did them on the concert. And afterwards, the kids said, oh, well, we actually did these a couple of years ago with the former band director. And they pulled up performances and they started critiquing themselves doing the exact same song. And that, you would think, well, that's silly. They've already done the song. It was an amazing experience because they were critiquing their own progression and how much they had improved versus listening to someone else's performance. So if you can dig out old recordings of your group, or if it's the same kids, that's even better. And so that can really, don't always bring out the good stuff, bring out the ugly stuff too, because that's where they can really utilize that music vocabulary and talk about the skills and the concepts you've been working on. What's your favorite or least favorite piece of music we're playing? Why do you like or dislike the piece? Listen, at the end of the day, we don't pick a song we don't like as conductors, but the kids don't always love it. And getting them to understand or find something within a song that they do like can really help them put more effort into learning it. Another great performance reflection is list 3 spots in our music that you played very well and 3 spots that you need improvement. How can we improve? How could you improve those sections? So getting them to reflect on their performances. I'm also a big proponent of not having a concert end and immediately going to the next set of literature to prepare for the next concert, because I feel like it's a huge loss of opportunity for the kids to reflect on, wait, how did we do? Because now that's going to inform what we need to work on to do even better the next time. So this is a great way to do that. What section of music have we improved the most? And how did we make that improvement happen? So they not only need to know where they're doing things well, but why are they doing them well? What did you do in class to get the students to become better? Or what did they do, even better yet, to get themselves to improve? List your musical strengths, whether it's tone, rhythmic ability, articulation, dynamics, range, etc. What would you most like to improve about how you play your instrument? And I know I'm making these very band related, but they could absolutely go for choral. They could go for general music if you're learning recorder in elementary school. My 8th graders learn to play the guitar, things like that. If you were running tomorrow's rehearsal, what is the first section of music you would work on and why? And that's also an awesome exit ticket. If your principal administration makes you use exit tickets or something of that nature, that's a great one, because now you're letting, and then you know what? Hey, the next day I'm going to tell those kids, hey, this came from Abby today and she thought we should try this. So we're going to start there because, and list that reasoning. And I also saw that these other students also thought we really needed to work on it. So clearly this is something we should start with. So they'll be proud of you featuring them and their thoughts and their opinions on the group and what needs to improve. So if you're working on developing listening or critiquing skills, some questions you might want to utilize: how is this music similar to or different from the music we're currently performing? Listen for your instrument or voice. What do you like about their performance? What would you change about their performance and why? Listen to the recording and critique the performance dynamics for any particular element you wish to focus. It doesn't have to be dynamics. You know, you could tell them, listen to the articulation, listen to whatever phrasing, to where where do you think they're breathing in the music, things of that nature. For a tone poem, you could say, were you able to follow the story of the music? What musical elements made the story clear to you? How did the composer create a feeling of excitement, or calm, tension, surprise? You know, asking them, how did they create, what is your emotional response? And then how did the composer go about creating that? What elements of music did they utilize to really get you, to pull you in and get you to own that feeling? That's a very powerful question and reflection for the kids. And then anything else you can come up with. I mean, those are just some of my ones I love to use, but you can use tons of those things. And it works for general music too. So let's take a look at some examples.
There's also a question, Shawna, about
Oh,
how to
okay.
get students used to writing in music class.
Okay,
They have to integrate writing, and the students always complain.
Yeah. So are they asking for ways or they're just commenting?
No, they're asking, I think, for some ideas.
So start simple. Start simple. If you use a digital platform like Google Classroom or Music First Classroom or something like that, utilize that. The kids like to do it that way. If they also don't like to handwrite, let them video record. In this day and age, you know, they can videotape themselves on their phone and submit it in Google Classroom just as easy as a Google Doc. I love the app called Clips. If you haven't heard of it, it is an iOS app. It's only for Mac, but I have seen a few Android versions out there. They're not as good, but I'm an Apple girl at heart, so I'm biased. But the Clips app is like Snapchat for education. So the kids can record themselves talking about their feelings instead of writing it out. Let them talk. They love to talk. And then they can add words. They can do a fun filter. They can add, you know, things to accentuate it, and you can make them do it musical. So that's another fun thing that they could then toss into and submit to you via a Google Drive, and it wouldn't take you that long to watch them. Quick, fast, like tell them, I only want like 20 seconds of you talking. Make it, you know, get it to the point. There's also a free website that I've also used called flipgrid.com. And you could create classes in there where your kids just submit it right back to you. I mean, even my son's one teacher uses that, and he's in first grade, and he'll have little headphones on in front of a Chromebook and give his reflection of a story they read or his thoughts about a character. Or, you know, they'll be given a guiding question, but they just get on there and talk to the camera. These kids are used to having a phone and videotaping themselves and all of that. So if they don't like to write, let them talk. That's my suggestion. It will not take you more time to go through it as long as you can figure out tech-wise how to get them submitted to you. And again, every district's a little different, so you can totally email me and I will give you some thoughts and ideas beyond what I just talked about if you want some specifics more about the tech side of it. But I would encourage you to go to your tech department in your school or district, because they're going to know how your network is kind of built and the best way for you to get submissions like that, whether it be Flipgrid or Clips or Google Classroom or some combination of all of that. So I would let them talk about it because they'll love that. So hopefully that answered that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's look at two more examples. Okay. So one that I have, let me pull it up here. Okay. So here is oh, it's way back here. I have like 10 things open, so I apologize. It takes me to get this. So here's how I practice. And this came from, let me scroll because I know, Music Educators Journal, actually December 2014. I've been holding on to this one. But I liked this where it says select a musical goal. And again, you can put in whatever you want for the next 2 weeks. Pick from this list one of these goals and give them the option to come up with their own. And whether you just let them come up on their own or you work on it if you have lesson groups where you can work with individuals, or maybe at the end of class you pull them aside, or during warm-ups in the beginning when the kids are coming in and setting up their instruments and they're just kind of noodling around getting the air flowing or whatever. But I really like this idea of letting the kids set a goal and then make a plan. And I like the selection process. Select at least one thing from each category to practice. So warm-ups, review, and then something new. So it's, okay, we need to warm up to be good musicians. Now you're going to review something you already know, and now you're going to go on to something new to challenge yourself and push yourself forward. And this is also a great way for you to document differentiation in your classroom, okay? Because there's hot button things that the administrators love to hear. So how's it going? Here's where you have that reflective self-assessment. What are you doing really well? What problems are you running into while you're practicing? This is going to help guide your instruction in the classroom. What practice strategies below might help improve your practicing? So they can check it off. Boom, boom. What have you used? Because now they're home practicing and they're not getting it. Wait, what did he say to do? What are some tools I can touch into? Oh, my school is calling. I think this is my delayed opening. Yep. Sorry, my other phone is going to ring, so I'm going to apologize. As my house phone is momentarily going to ring. Journal entries, here you go. Did you meet your goal? What practice strategies worked best for you? So again, bringing in that self-reflection to guide that practice. And then scale of 1 to 10, that's another idea. Here's a level 2 that you might use. Select a goal you think is appropriate. You know, this is where it's less guiding and them having to write a little bit more. But it's scaffolding. Maybe you've got more advanced players that this would be more Ooh, I have a delayed opening. Yay, sorry. So maybe that's more appropriate for some of your students who take more private lessons, who are your more advanced kids. Again, it's a leveled thing. It still has the same structure. You're still getting the same concepts. You're just putting more of the ownership in them and you're guiding them a little bit less, okay? And then a level 3, so see, there it is. Select a goal that you think is appropriate. Why is it good? Sorry, I'm just going to end this call. And then, you know, create an order to your practice sessions that will help you reach your goal. So again, a level 3 of beginner, intermediate, kind of advanced on guiding their practicing. And again, you can see there's a lot more practice strategies here. Writing notes to your future self on what you've learned in these practice sessions that will help you improve next time. Because again, they got to think about what they've done in order to be able to move on and do well. Okay, so that's one idea. Another one is, so when I'm doing with my general music kids, one of the things I do with them for kind of self-reflection critique is I put the rubric at the top of the reflection tasks, and they have to do a description, accurately describing their own work and the work of others using specific details, musical vocabulary, and perceptive observations. Then, and this is again middle school, self-reflection, that they're enhancing the revision process and it's going to lead to their improved work. Responding to others' peer critique, and then how independently did they work. And then down here is where I have kind of 2 different ways this can work. One is just giving them a question. What form is used to give your song project structure? And they have to tell me what they used. What style or genre is your song? And then tell me the specific loop names that support that style you chose. So now I know that they're specifically choosing a genre, and they're able to tell me which loops support that. How do they use dynamics and fades? What loops make up the melody? What loops are harmony? What's accompaniment in terms of like percussion and things like that? And how did they think they did in completing the project? Did they need a lot of help, or were they able to be independent learners? So getting them to kind of fill this in. Open just questions, use the spaces to fill in. But then I also, sometimes I have students that need a little bit more guidance in terms of filling this out. You know, my classes, as most music classes are, I've got the special education students right in with the regular ed. And some of my more advanced kids that are in an advanced track might do well with this sheet right here. But then some of my other students might need more of a sheet. Let me see if this, nope, that's the one I just did. Okay, stop sharing. They may need a sheet that looks more like this. Let's see, where are you? Okay, you highlight green. Okay, so here's another sample. I just put melody, and they have to discuss the topics using complete thoughts and appropriate vocabulary. So now I didn't even have guiding questions. Okay, so this would be like the highest level versus you just saw the middle. And now I'm going to show you kind of a lower, I don't want to say lower end, but kind of a more guided work. So right here, so again, it looks the same, so they may not realize that different kids have different sheets, but now, bam, my home tone is fill in the blank. My motive can first be heard in measure number, fill in the blank. And by the way, they're citing textual evidence right here, which is, I don't know if your schools still use Common Core, but they probably use some form of those standards where the kids have to cite textual evidence. Well, our music is our text. So anytime that the kids are saying, well, I found this in measure 22, they're citing textual evidence. You will hear my motive repeated in measures, and they're telling me. So it's more fill in the blank, but this is going to guide them in that process. I'll start here, then I'll move to just questions on the left side under the titles, and they fill in. And then I'll go to where just talk about the melody, telling me all about your melody. So you can really kind of layer that to meet the kids' needs and their ability levels so that they have success within your room. Okay, let's go back to our Prezi. Okay, so those are all my ideas, again, on meeting, whether you have, I don't know, Pennsylvania, I'm assuming you guys have some kind of SGOs, student growth objectives, or maybe they're called SIPs, some kind of improvement where you have to document that your kids are actually learning something in your classroom and report it back at the end of the year. In New Jersey, we call them SGOs, student growth objectives. But, you know, they may call them, PAs are called SLOs. Yes, thank you, Ian. Yes, they are. That is, I was looking, I was like, it's S something. Oh, SLOs. Yes, student learning objectives. Okay. So ours are called student growth. I guess they're assuming they're growing. So these kinds of things will also help you collect that data that your administration wants to see of what they're doing. If you haven't seen anything like this, here's a nice little chart that I like to always put in a lot of my presentations. And I just talked about connecting with whether it's Common Core and math. I talked a little bit about that. But if you look at those national art standards, I'm going to try to, no, don't do that to me. Sorry. Let me flip. Oh, nope, that's what I want. Back. You can see that creating, perform, present, produce, respond, connect. Those are those national core buckets that I talked about at the beginning. And then creating goes with modeling and math. That's a standard that is in every state. And then that's producing, writing, and ELA. So you can kind of see where your kids might be creating something in music and where you might be able to pull in and connect those other standards. I know in my district, I have to post not only the music standards I'm covering, but any other content area standards I might pull into the class also. Language, art, they love the ELA and math because of standardized tests. But also science they want to see. Am I hitting any of the history or any other? And I throw them all up there. I want to show them I'm doing all kinds of stuff in my room, and it's not just music. Because we know we cover every single content in our classrooms, unlike most teachers that just get to focus on their one thing. So I just like this chart because it kind of makes it easy to see where things might align across contents. So another thing I love to do when flipping a classroom is developing a group performance rubric. So phase one is I have the kids watch YouTube videos. Again, phenomenal performances, and then show less than ideal performances of the pieces they're doing. Because I want them to listen to those to get a frame of reference to be able to then evaluate themselves on their performance. And maybe sometimes I may not do songs we're working on. I might just pull songs that I think will connect to the concepts I want them to really focus on, and again, guiding their thinking, but they think they're coming up with it. So then a class activity in phase two, discussion of the videos, collect the answers on the whiteboard, put them up there. So what are some elements that contribute to a great performance like this one? What struck you as unique to that performance? What are some things each performer has in common? What musical elements were present in these performances? And what did you like about any of these performances? You may also say, what did you not like? What didn't go well? Again, you have to determine the lens with which you want to guide your students. Then compile the answers. So you're going to need to do this when they're not there. Discuss, and then come back and discuss and define terms more clearly. Generate and distribute kind of an outline for them, and I'm going to show you an example of one. And that they can complete, I like to have them do it in small groups. You could send this home as a homework assignment at night, or as part of their practice session. I want you to fill out this. And encourage them to write down definitions of the terms. So if the terms you have on there are dynamics, what are you working on the music? Hopefully they've pulled those things in that class activity where they watch the video, and then have them write the definitions of those terms on the sheet. Because if they don't really understand what the terms mean, they're not going to be able to talk about them and evaluate them. And then provide examples, explain how and why each is important. And I would spend about 20 minutes compiling these answers and giving them time to come up with them. So then discuss the outline and use the criteria as scoring categories on your rubric. That's down your left side. Review the rubric as a class once it's been created. Score several YouTube videos. You need to try it out. They need to get familiar with this rubric if they're going to have to do it to evaluate themselves. Don't have the first time they use it be of themselves. Pull some YouTube videos, let them test it out on them, and make adjustments, because it's probably not going to be perfect the first time. And then use it to inform the standard for their own performance evaluations. Have them keep it in their folder and go back and refer to it. You finish the day, maybe the exit ticket is, as you walk out the door, write on the board how you would score yourself, 4, 3, 2, or 1, in this specific song or in this section of that song. You determine that lens that you want them to reflect on and evaluate. But this is a great way to do it by giving them a rubric that they help develop and keep it in their folder that they can always go back to, that either is tied to a specific song or to your concert program. Maybe it hits each of the songs, dependent upon what is your focus. We all, when we program concerts, or even when I'm working with my general music kids in guitar, I will do things like this for them when they have to perform for me, so they know exactly what I'm looking for, and they've told me what I'm looking for. So let's look at a couple examples of what I'm talking about. And I think there was, let me just check. There was, oh, yay. I'm glad you like the guiding questions. Yay. Okay. So let's check out a couple of things. So here's a great one for elementary school. And I'm sorry that it's kind of fuzzy. It didn't scan in very well. So elementary, have them sung or played clearly. Emojis. My middle school kids even love emojis. If you don't want to have to get down with lots of words, put a little emoji face on there, and they're happy as a clam, and you're finding out whether they know. Demonstrated rhythm. Showed creativity, followed directions, sang or played at an appropriate level. This is called like 2 stars and a wish. I also call it 2 things that you did well, 1 thing to think about, or 1 thing you might improve. And it could be a self thing, or it could be a peer, or, hey, clarinets, I want you to talk about the trumpets, or violins, I want you to think about the percussion section. So you can frame what it is that they're going to do. So you can use this with the youngest of kids. I've done this with kindergarteners where it was just a picture and then a thumbs up, like a thumbs up emoji and a thumbs down emoji, and they love it. They eat it up. So don't think it's just for the big kids. Put it on their level that they'll have fun. And if you can start it early on and then layer it as they go through the grades, oh my gosh, it'll be amazing what you'll be able to accomplish with them with that. Another great one, here is one I use with my guitar kids. So this is their self-assessment, and they actually helped me create this. And I'm going to show you that towards the end of this presentation, which I'm looking at the clock. My time flies when you're having fun. So here is rhythm, and then I have 4 different levels: pitch, technique, and musical, oops, sorry, woo, fast scrolling, musical concepts. So a consistent and appropriate application of musical concepts, dynamics, articulation, phrasing. And then I have 4 different layers to that, but they know I'm really looking at their rhythm, pitch, technique, and application of musical concepts. Done. And it's very, very clear, and I will have them refer back to that each day as they're practicing their work. And then, so here is a great, I love this rubric development outline. So this was done for orchestra, but again, the kids came up with the vocab. So articulation, dynamics, rhythm, proper bowing, posture, title of the piece, correct notes, tones. Okay. So then here's some selected responses that they might give to those things that they're writing about. And again, they've got to understand, well, and you give this page to the kids, well, what would you be talking about if we were looking for proper bowing? What would we be looking for if we were going to look at the posture? And because you've watched a bunch of videos, they should be able to fill it in because you've been talking about it in class. And then, again, that's where it then turns into a rubric where, yes, you're going to have to fill in the different levels, but they're giving you the information that you can then tweak, or maybe you have them dependent on all the notes are correct. There were only 1 error, only 2 errors, a lot of errors, whatever it is, getting from a 1 to a 4 and how you want to set that up. Okay. But again, don't be afraid to have them be a part of it. And one of the things I love to utilize is, something simple, but I'll frequently give it to my kids is, these are the elements of music. Here's what the focus is. And whatever music class I'm teaching, I'm going to be touching upon all of these concepts. This is like this is music 101, that whether you have kindergarten or you have seniors in high school, you're going to talk about pitch, duration, dynamics. I even do it in music technology. We do it all the time. Tone, color, form, texture. So giving them a little 1-pager, and again, I'll put all of these on my website tonight. I'll do it before I go to bed tonight. That, they can refer back to as a little chart to kind of go through that. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay, so that's developing kind of a group performance rubric. I love the activity. I know it will take a little bit of time, but I think it pays off in the end. And the more you do it, the quicker the process will become with the kids, and they'll enjoy it. They really will. Nope, that just jumped over for me. So the last thing I want to talk about is student-centered assessments. And really, that's kind of what I've been talking about the whole time. In addition, you're flipping your classroom to get towards a more student-centered music class. So the benefits are, again, the students are going to be more connected to the content. They're going to be more invested in their success. And I find that there's a lot less questions of what I'm looking for or what they need to do because they're telling me. And if I have gone over the material, so say the guitars have been practicing this song for the past 4 days and they're going to be tested on it, okay? Well, hopefully I've told them how to practice and I've showed them how to practice, and that's how they've been practicing. So what I'll do is, you'll see a little JPEG up here that's my whiteboard in my classroom, and I will pull them up to the front of the class, and we'll just sit on the floor, a little powwow, and I'll say, okay, what am I looking for when you play for me on Friday? And at first they're going to go, well, shouldn't you know that? You're the teacher. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know. You tell me. Come on, tell me. What have we been working on? So this was the list that they came up with. Chord transitions, keeping a steady beat, the strum pattern, chord fingerings for A, D, and E. Where are your eyes? Because I tell them you can't constantly be looking at your hands. And holding the guitar. Where's their left thumb, and are they holding it with good posture? And that was, so I just started really doing this over the past 2 years. And it ended up being the exact same rubric I always used. But they are doing better on the performance exams because they understand better what I'm looking for, and they're more invested in practicing to meet them versus me giving them a rubric and they don't read it because they don't really care, because they just want to get to it and be done with it. When I make them stop and tell me what am I going to look for, I don't tell them I already have the rubric made up. And sometimes they come up with stuff and I'll go, oh, I didn't think about, yes, I'm going to add that. And then I get excited because sometimes their standards are even higher than our own. They're harder on themselves. We know as teachers, we're harder on ourselves than our principal is usually because they don't really know what we're always supposed to be doing. The kids are the same way. So I'll put it right on the board. And this serves a couple purposes for me. They're helping create their summative assessment that will be a rubric, okay? But in the process of creating that summative, I am getting data for a formative assessment because they're telling me whether they have learned and are in the process of along the way of getting to that summative point where I'm going to test, have they learned it? Like, okay, if none of them talk about keeping a steady beat, clearly I need to go back and reinforce that in their practicing and then revisit it. So it's a formative assessment they're developing a summative assessment. I'm using the development of that summative assessment as my formative assessment. I hope you followed that. Okay, so it's like a twofer. But you could also use it as a diagnostic. You give them a song, say, I want you to spend the next 5, just look at it, try it. Okay, everybody stop. Maybe you give them 15 minutes, however much time you feel they need. And then say, okay, how are we going to go about practicing this? Well, now that's a diagnostic assessment of what is their base of knowledge so you can push them even further along as they go. So you can utilize all 3 types of assessment with this one method of getting them there. If you're interested in kind of more details on student-centered assessments, I have an article coming out for Education Closet next month in February. And I will cross-post it on my website. So if you come back, you'll be able to see it on my portfolio page on my website. But if you go to educationcloset.com and search student-centered assessments, it's not up yet. Wait till February. But it is coming out hot off the presses, a whole article on how to utilize those within your classrooms with some more specific information and techniques and things like that. So what is my website? Okay, so here's my website. First of all, there's my email address, shawnalongo@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out at any time if you try this out and love it, hate it, have questions. Please, please, please. I love to get feedback and hear how you're doing, trying out some of my ideas and things that I've utilized and had success with in the classroom, because not everything works for everybody, or how you might tweak it and make it even better. I would love to hear that because I'm a lifelong learner and I love to try new things. Please follow me on Twitter, social media at Shawna Longo. And my website is Creative EDU Consulting. Make sure you put the www in the front or else it won't work. I don't know why. It's just a little tech glitch that happens. But if you go, my portfolio page has links to tons of stuff. I've done podcasts and articles I've written and things like that, as well as work I've done. You can see some lessons in action that I've done with my students, and here's some samples in my general music class, specifically relating to STEAM in music technology. But then I also have a professional development page, and that's where you'll see tonight's webinar listed with a link right to this Prezi. I will also create another link that says resources, and that will take you to a Google folder that I will create tonight, I promise, within the next hour, once I get my son down for bed. And that will give you all of those worksheets and graphics and things that I showed you throughout this. And they're also embedded within each of the Prezi spots along the way. You'll see at the bottom of it, I wrote the names of them. So if you're like, wait, where did that fit in her presentation? Just go back and look in the presentation. They're all there by the same title that I used on the document. So I will dump those into a nice little folder for you guys and share them out tonight. So thank you so much. I know I'm about 4 minutes early, but I hope you don't mind. If there are any questions, I will take them now. Any thoughts? Anything? Yes. Anything?
Lots of thank yous.
Yes. Yay. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, I will do a selfish plug. I will be at All Eastern if you're coming. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't remember which workshops I'm presenting.
It's okay.
I'm going to Texas in 2 weeks, but it's on my website. So if you go to the professional development page, it's listed. I think I'm doing tech ideas for elementary music, and I think I'm doing coding plus composition equals chiptune music. I think those are the two I'm doing at All Eastern. Am I right, Abby?
You are correct.
Yay!
And they're both on Saturdays. So for those of you who can't get out of school, maybe Thursday and Friday, come Saturday. We have a daily rate for Saturday.
Yeah, I will be there with bells on, really. And I would love to meet you in person. That would be super fun. So come check out those sessions. We can chat. All Eastern's going to be a blast. I'm very excited to go to Pittsburgh. I'm a big Steelers fan. I'm very bummed they're not playing this weekend, but that's okay. There's always
next year. We'll hold on.
Sorry if you're an Eagles fan.
It's all right. Next year for them too.
Yes, yes.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shawna.
You're very welcome.
Fantastic. And for everyone on the call as well, tomorrow I'll send a follow-up email. I'll include Shawna's website link in there too. And also the link to this recording and to the surveys that you need to fill out if you'd like the PMEA Act 40 or PA Act 48 credits. So there you have it. All right. Well, everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your snowy, icy, cold, whatever night, and hopefully you have 2-hour delays or can sleep a little bit longer.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. It was my pleasure. Have a great night. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.